Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring the ENFJ personality type. They're often called the giver or the protagonist. We got two articles from the Spiritual Seek about this personality type, both of them, and we're excited to kind of dig into those with you.
Yeah, it should be interesting. ENFJs are known for their complex mix of traits, and how they can really have a big impact on the people around them.
For sure. So let's start by just breaking down the acronym. ENFJ stands for extroverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. Could you maybe just walk us through what each of those means, like how they come together in the ENFJ personality?
Absolutely. So extroverted basically means that ENFJs gain energy from being around other people. They kind of thrive in social settings, like to connect with, a wide range of people. And then intuitive suggests that they're more focused on the big picture. They're looking for patterns and possibilities rather than getting caught up in like all the concrete details.
So they're less focused on the here and now and more interested in what could be, down the road.
Exactly. And then the feeling preference indicates that they really prioritize, empathy and harmony when they're making decisions. They're really tuned in to the emotions of others. And finally, judging doesn't mean they're judgmental, like in a negative way. It just means that they prefer structure and organization. And they like to make plans and, actually follow through on them.
Gotcha. Okay, so both of the articles we have here highlight a few key characteristics, for ENFJs. They say that they're warm, outgoing, sensitive, they've got excellent people skills, and, a real drive to help others. Would you say those are accurate?
Yeah, definitely. Those are pretty consistent with the ENFJ personality. Their warmth and sensitivity, that really stems from, their strong feeling preference. And that also kind of explains why they're called the giver, because they often, put the needs of others ahead of their own.
It's interesting. So it seems like their inclination to help others is really a big part of who they are.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely plays a huge role in, how they interact with the world. And it kind of explains why they're often drawn to certain careers or activities where they can have that, positive impact on others.
Right, right. One of the articles mentions that ENFJs only make up about 5% of the population. So it seems like they're pretty rare.
Yeah, it's a pretty unusual combination of traits that can make them, kind of stand out. They often have like a charismatic presence, and they really know how to inspire the people around them.
Okay. Let's talk about cognitive functions for a second. Yeah. So these are basically like the mental processes that shape how we, interact with the world and process information. From what I understand, ENFJs have kind of a unique cognitive stack, right?
Yeah, exactly. So their dominant function is extroverted feeling. And as we've already talked about, that drives their focus on external harmony and understanding, how other people are feeling.
Okay, and then their auxiliary function is introverted intuition. How does that play into their personality?
So introverted intuition allows ENFJs to process information, on a deeper level. And they can kind of see patterns that other people might miss. And that's really what fuels their future-oriented thinking and their ability to, like, connect seemingly unrelated ideas.
So it's like their intuitive side kind of balances out their feeling side.
Yeah, you could say that. They're able to see that bigger picture while also, staying very in tune with the emotions of people around them.
Right. Okay. The articles also mention two other functions, extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. Could you break those down for us a little bit? How do they fit in?
Yeah, sure. So extroverted sensing is their tertiary function. And even though, ENFJs are mostly focused on abstract concepts in the future, this function allows them to appreciate the present moment and, enjoy those sensory experiences. Like they might really enjoy creative pursuits or just appreciating the beauty of their surroundings.
So it keeps them grounded.
Exactly. Gives them some balance. And then introverted thinking, which is their inferior function, can be a little more challenging.
How so?
Well, because that feeling preference is so dominant, ENFJs sometimes struggle to trust their own logic, and to make decisions that aren't based on other people's values. They might overthink things or need a lot of external validation.
So developing that introverted thinking function is important for them.
Definitely. Finding that balance between feeling and thinking can really help them grow and become more confident in their decisions.
Okay, that makes sense. One of the articles mentioned something about ENFJ subtypes, ENFJ-A and ENFJ-T. Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, the subtypes basically describe how ENFJs respond to stress and challenges. So the ENFJ-A, which stands for assertive, tends to be more confident and resilient. They bounce back from setbacks pretty easily. And then the ENFJT, which is turbulent, might be more prone to self-doubt, and they might, experience stress a little more intensely.
So it's like variations within the broader ENFJ personality type.
Exactly. It just shows that even within one personality type, there can be a lot of individual differences.
Makes sense. So I'm curious about how these personality traits, play out in relationships. What are ENFJs like as friends, partners, family members?
Well, their warmth, their supportiveness, and their ability to connect on a deep level, all of that makes them incredibly devoted and caring in relationships. They're known for being loyal, and they'll go the extra mile for the people they care about.
But are there any, potential downsides to those strengths? Could their desire to help sometimes backfire?
Yeah, one potential pitfall is becoming too involved in other people's problems or feeling like they have to fix everything. Their empathy can sometimes lead to self-sacrifice, and they can have a hard time setting boundaries.
So it's important for them to find that balance between caring for others and, taking care of themselves.
Definitely. They need to set clear boundaries and realize that they can't be everything to everyone.
Right. So it sounds like open communication would be pretty important in any relationship with an ENFJ.
Oh, absolutely. They need to feel comfortable expressing their needs and concerns, and the people around them need to respect those boundaries and encourage them to take care of themselves, too.
For sure. One thing I thought was interesting is how much the articles emphasize the need for ENFJs to have alone time, which seems kind of counterintuitive since they're extroverts.
Yeah, it's a common misconception that extroverts just, thrive on constant social interaction. But even the most outgoing people need time to recharge and process their thoughts and feelings. And that's especially true for ENFJs because they take in so much, emotional energy from other people.
So it's not about avoiding social interaction altogether, but more about finding a balance.
Exactly. It's about incorporating some solitude into their lives so they can, recharge and avoid burnout.
Okay, well, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already. We've gone over the acronym, the cognitive functions, and how those play out in relationships.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to explore about ENFJs.
Definitely. So next I want to talk about some of the career paths that might be a good fit for ENFJs. The articles point out a few areas where their strengths could really shine.
Yeah, they're naturally drawn to certain professions because of their desire to help others and their strong people skills, and they're really good communicators.
It seems like counseling, teaching, social work, leadership roles, those all seem like they could be good fits.
Yeah, exactly. Those kinds of fields allow them to use their empathy, connect with people on a deep level, and, really make a difference in their lives.
Right. Their communication skills are important too, since those jobs often involve a lot of interaction and explaining complex ideas,
Yeah.
in a way that resonates with people.
Absolutely. That ability to understand and respond to people's emotional needs is really valuable in those roles.
The articles also mention some careers that might not be the best fit for ENFJs.
Yeah, they might struggle in fields that are really focused on logic and reasoning, without much of a human element. So, jobs that involve a lot of data analysis or really technical tasks might not be very fulfilling for them.
So finding a career that aligns with their values and lets them use their natural talents is really key.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where they can really flourish and make a difference.
For sure. Speaking of making a difference, one of the articles lists a few famous people who might be ENFJs. Want to go over those?
Sure. The article suggests that people like Abraham Maslow, Peyton Manning, Barack Obama, Bono, and even the fictional character Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, they might all exhibit some ENFJ traits.
Wow, that's a pretty diverse group.
Yeah, and it just shows that, these traits can manifest in all sorts of different contexts: psychology, sports, politics, music, literature. It highlights the versatility of the ENFJ personality, I think. Their potential to excel in a lot of different areas.
Absolutely. So to kind of sum things up, we've talked about the key characteristics of ENFJs, their cognitive functions, their strengths, potential challenges. We've even touched on career paths and, famous people who might share this personality type.
Yeah, we've gained a pretty comprehensive understanding of what makes them pick and how their unique traits influence how they interact with the world.
But it's important to remember that Myers-Briggs, it's just one framework for looking at personality. It's not meant to be a label. It's more of a tool for self-discovery.
Right. We don't want to pigeonhole people based on their personality type. Everyone is unique and complex.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive into ENFJs, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that understanding personality, whether it's your own or someone else's, is a really powerful tool. It can help you grow as a person and build better relationships.
Yeah, it allows us to be more empathetic and compassionate and to appreciate the differences between people.
Right. And the ENFJ personality type, with all of its charisma, empathy, and drive to make a difference, is a really great example of how understanding these nuances can enrich our lives and our relationships. It's been a pretty good overview of the ENFJ so far.
Yeah, I think so. We've gone over, their core traits and cognitive functions, and we even touched on some of the potential challenges they face. I kind of wanted to dive a little deeper into those. One of the articles mentioned that ENFJs sometimes have trouble setting boundaries.
That's right. Because they have that deep empathy and desire to help others, they can end up spreading themselves too thin or getting, overly involved in other people's problems.
So how can ENFJs navigate those situations and set healthier boundaries?
I think self-awareness is key. They need to recognize their own limits and understand that they can't fix everything for everyone. And it's also important for them to prioritize their own needs and take time for self-care.
So it's about finding that balance, right, between giving to others and taking care of themselves.
Exactly. They have to make sure they're taking care of their own emotional needs, so they can continue giving to others in a healthy way.
The articles also talk about ENFJs and their tendency to rely on external validation.
Yeah, because their feeling function is so dominant, they can sometimes have a hard time, trusting their own judgment or making decisions based on their own internal logic. So that might look for approval from others, even when it's not really necessary.
Okay, so how can they develop more self-assurance and trust their own instincts?
It's about strengthening that introverted thinking function, learning to analyze things objectively, consider different perspectives, and make decisions based on their own values and reasoning.
So again, it's about finding that balance, right, between feeling and thinking.
Right. Integrating both the heart and the head.
This is really fascinating stuff. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the spiritual side of things. The Spiritual Seek articles really emphasize how ENFJs have this deep desire to make a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, that's a major theme in their interpretation of the ENFJ personality. They basically see ENFJs as being driven by, a sense of purpose and this need to contribute to something bigger than themselves.
They use phrases like magnetic guides and champions of harmony to describe them.
Which I think really captures their ability to inspire others and lead people toward a shared vision. They often have this natural charisma that draws people in and makes them very effective at communicating their ideas.
The articles also talk about the importance of authenticity for ENFJs.
Right. They stress that ENFJs need to stay true to themselves and their values, even when, they're facing pressure from others, which can be tough for them because they're so tuned in to the needs of other people.
So it's that balance again, isn't it, between connecting with others and maintaining their own sense of self.
Exactly. It's about following their own inner compass.
The Spiritual Seek articles also have some interesting things to say about ENFJs and intuition.
Yeah, they believe that ENFJs have a really strong connection to their intuition, and they often get these insights or gut feelings, that guide their decisions.
So it's not just about logic, it's about trusting their intuition.
Right. They might have a sense of knowing or a hunch that leads them in the right direction, even if they can't explain it logically.
This has been a really great discussion so far. We've looked at the ENFJ's strengths, their challenges, and now their spiritual side.
We've definitely gained a more well-rounded perspective.
And I think it's important to remember that these insights are helpful not just for people who identify as ENFJs, but for anyone who interacts with them, in any part of life.
Absolutely. Understanding the ENFJ personality can help us all build stronger relationships with the ENFJs in our lives.
It can also help us understand their motivations, their communication style, and maybe even, their sensitivities.
Right, which can lead to more empathy and understanding in our interactions.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into the ENFJ, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise. It's been really eye-opening.
Glad to be here. ENFJs are definitely a fascinating group.
And for our listeners who want to learn more, I definitely recommend checking out those articles from the Spiritual Seek. They were the inspiration for this whole conversation.
Yeah, they offer a lot of great information.
And remember, this is just a starting point. There's always more to learn about ourselves and the people around us.
Definitely. So keep exploring, keep learning, and, keep embracing the diversity of human personality.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive into the ENFJ personality. We've gone over their cognitive functions, their strengths, the potential challenges they face. We even touched on their spiritual side a bit. Now I want to zoom in on some of the more nuanced aspects of ENFJs that the Spiritual Seek articles highlight.
Yeah, I mean, those articles really offer some interesting perspectives on how ENFJs think and what makes them tick. It goes beyond just, the basic personality type descriptions.
Exactly. One thing that really stood out to me was how they talk about ENFJs and their relationship with their own emotions. They describe them as, deeply feeling people who are super aware of how everyone around them is feeling.
Right, and that's a core part of their personality. That dominant feeling function makes them really empathetic. They pick up on those little emotional cues that other people might miss completely, and they just have this natural ability to connect with people on that emotional level.
The articles also talk about how important it is for ENFJs to actually express their emotions. Like they say that bottling things up can lead to stress and, just feeling out of balance.
Yeah, ENFJs need to find healthy ways to, let those emotions out, whether it's through creative expression or talking things out with someone they trust, or even just spending time in nature. They do best when they can be open about their feelings and connect with others in a genuine way.
Another thing they bring up is the ENFJ's tendency toward idealism. The articles describe them as people who really believe in the good in others and, have a vision for a better world.
Yeah, and that idealism is often what fuels their passion for helping others and, trying to make a positive impact on the world. They see potential in everyone and everything.
But the articles also say that it's important for ENFJs to balance their idealism with a bit of realism, right?
Right. I mean, it's great to be idealistic, but it's also important to understand that, the world is a complex place. Not everyone shares those same values or that same vision. So they have to learn to navigate the realities of human nature while still holding on to that hope for a better future.
For sure. The Spiritual Seek articles also give some, practical advice for interacting with ENFJs. They say it's important to be sincere and open with them, to be mindful of their sensitivity, and to, appreciate that they genuinely want to connect with people.
Yeah, that's all good advice for anyone who wants to have a strong relationship with an ENFJ. They value authenticity.
Definitely. Well, I feel like we've really come full circle in our understanding of the ENFJ personality. We've explored their strengths, their weaknesses, their motivations, and their unique worldview.
It's been a really interesting journey, peeling back those layers and seeing what makes them tick.
Absolutely. And I think these insights are helpful for anyone, whether you're an ENFJ yourself or just someone who wants to understand the people around them better.
I agree. Understanding different personality types, like the ENFJ, can help us all be more empathetic and compassionate and create a more understanding world.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the ENFJ personality. And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep using this knowledge to connect with others in a more meaningful way.